Hi, and welcome to freshmind.com. My name is Eric, and we are going to create a desert scene. We're going to start off by creating the ground plane. So I'm going to create a polygon plane. Let's scale this up. Alright, now I'm going big because I'm going to be getting in here with my camera. That's why I scaled this up even bigger. Alright, in fact, this was a default plane, and I scaled this up. Well, this one right here is 275. I've got another one that I'm going to be using that I've got hidden, and it's about that size right there. Alright, let's go ahead and get this started. I'm going to select vertices, so I'm going to go to vertices select mode. I'm going to go to my select menu. Now make sure you're in your polygon menu set. Go to your select menu, go down to select using constraints. At the very top, you're going to choose current and next. The next one down, you're going to choose inside. That way you don't select any vertices on the border. You only select the vertices inside the borders. Alright, you're going to go down to where it says random. Put a check mark next to activate and change ratio to 0.3. This ratio 0.3 means we're going to select 30% of the vertices, but it's going to be random. Alright, so if I go over here and I just marquee drag around all these vertices, it didn't select any vertices on the border, but it selected 30% of the vertices in the center, but it did it randomly. And every time, let me go ahead and minimize this dialog box. Every time I select these, it selects different vertices. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our move tool, and with those vertices selected, we're just going to pull those up. I'm going to press number 3 on my keyboard for smooth preview. And all we're doing is pulling these up to kind of create some rolling hills in our desert. Alright, I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to kind of look for a render angle that I like. So something like this is pretty cool. This is pretty close to what I'm actually going to be using. If you don't see anything you like, then you can just Control Z and undo it until it's flat, and then just reselect the vertices, and it will select some different vertices. And now you can pull those up. If you don't like that, undo, reselect again, and just keep doing that until you find something that you like. Alright, now I played around with this and I found something that I like, but I went ahead and did it before this, so we didn't spend too much time on this part here. So I'm going to, okay, let's say that we did like this right here. If you notice, our mesh is kind of not very dense, kind of light, so what I'm going to do is go to mesh and smooth. Alright, so now our mesh is a little more denser, and it looks a little better. It looks a little more smoother. Alright, so that's all I've done. I'm going to delete that. In the select dialog box up here, I'm going to click on close and reset at the bottom left, and I'm going to pull up the mesh that I did. Alright, so I worked around, played around with it a little while, and this is what I liked, and then I did a smooth on it to just increase the density. Alright, I found an angle that I liked, which is about right here. Once you find an angle that you like, a rendering angle, you can either create a new camera and do this, or you can do what I did and just create a bookmark. Once you get it to where you like it to render it out, go up to your view menu, and I've already done this. Go to your view menu, go down to bookmarks, and you can see we've got some render angles here. Just go to edit bookmarks. I can select some angles up here and I can delete them. If I want to create a new angle, then I can just type in here render angle 2, hit enter, and we just rename that one up there. We can add a new bookmark, so I can just click on new bookmark. So you can kind of play around with this. So if I just delete everything, and then actually let me undo that because I actually like the render angle that I had. Alright, render angle 1, let me just make sure. Alright. So what this means is if I go to edit bookmark, I'm just going to delete all these, delete, delete, delete. You can just type in the name, render angle 1, close, and now when you're working around and you're moving around your scene and you're like, I really like that angle that I was at, I really want to do a render from that angle, but Man, I don't know if I can get it back to where it was. Well, as long as you had that bookmark, you can go back up to View, Bookmarks, Render Angle 1, and it takes you right back exactly how you had it. Alright, so once you have your mesh and you have a rendering angle set, next thing to do is start adding some color. Alright, let's select our ground plane. I'm just going to do a right click, add new material, Lambert. Alright, up here, I'm just going to type in name. I'm just going to type in SHDR shader underscore, let's call it sand. And let's click on our color swatch here. Now, I did this before and I actually used some textures and stuff, but we're going to do everything procedural. It's not that hard. We can get some decent results. Not perfect results, but decent. Alright, so as far as the color of our ground, let's go up. I'm just going to bring up the brightness and saturation all the way up. And then let's just kind of choose a color. I want something not too yellow, not too red, but some kind of reddish orange. So maybe something kind of about in this area here. If you look on our color wheel, we're kind of in this upper right hand quadrant on the edge, kind of about halfway, but maybe a little bit closer towards the reddish side. Alright, once you get something you like, I'm just going to take the saturation out some. So maybe something about like that. You can look up here, my little sample. And then the darkness, since this is going to be a bright sunny day, I'm going to have it all the way completely bright. I'm just going to click on accept. Alright, now let's just do a render, test render. Okay, now to get a better feel for our color, I'm going to change this background from black to something else. So view, camera attribute editor. Let's go down to environment. And I'm going to change this to, let's say, I don't know, I kind of like that color blue there. I'm just going to take some saturation out, make it maybe a little bit darker, take a little more saturation, something about like that, and then maybe a little darker. Something about like that maybe. Let's render that out. Alright, that's pretty good. So just kind of get like a bluish sky, that way it gives you a better feel for the color. That's not too bad right there, I kind of like that. I might want to take a little bit more of the saturation out. We'll see once we get a light in there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to go to File, Save Scene As, and it's right here on our desktop, and let's name this Desert Scene _1. So the first phase, save. Okay, let's add some, make our sand look more like sand, like the wind's been blowing across it and creating some ripples. Alright, so I'm just going to select our shader node up here in our attribute editor. And this time, instead of where it says color, I'm going to go down to where it says bump mapping. The far right, I'm going to click on the checkered button. And then I'm going to click on where it says water, because we're going to use a water texture to create our ripples. Alright, you'll see a bump depth. I'm going to take this all the way down to almost nothing, 0.01. When you work with bump, you pretty much, it's just so easy to overdo it. So I always start, usually I start at 0.1. But for the sand and stuff, it's going to be not like working with bricks on a wall. It's going to be even more subtle. So I'm taking mine all the way down to 0.01. Alright, right above that bump value, to the far right, I'm going to click on that button. This allows us to adjust our waves. Alright, at the very top we got number of waves, wave time. Okay, wave time, wave velocity we're not going to worry about because we're not going to be animating this. We're not going to be animating our waves. Wave amplitude, that's kind of like your bump depth. Of course, frequencies, just kind of how many waves. Smoothest, just what it says. Wind UVs, that's the direction of your wind. So basically the direction of your waves that you want, whether they want them going completely horizontal or completely vertical or kind of straight with our mesh here, or we can do it at an angle by combining them both. Right now the default is just 1 and 0, but we can play with those. The way we're going to adjust these waves is going to be our IPR rendering. So up here at the top, you'll see a button that says IPR. I'm just going to click on that. It's going to render out. Alright, I'm just going to marquee drag a small section. But I want it to be where the sand is. Alright, so now we got this little red box. So any changes we make, it's going to update that rendering inside that red box in real time. Alright, so if we change the number of waves, probably not going to do anything. So let's do 10, 20, 30, 100. It's just really not updating anything. That's because we need to adjust this wave frequency first. So let's just knock this number of waves. Oh, we'll just leave it there for now. I got 100. Alright, wave frequency. Let's do 10, 20, 30, 80. Okay, we start to see a little bit of some ripples there. Let's do 100, 150, 200. Alright, so we're getting kind of a nice look right there around 200. 250. Alright, that's kind of a little too much there, so I'm going to drop this down to 200 for my wave. Now this number is going to change depending on the size of your mesh. Alright, number of waves, if we can adjust this now and it should make a difference. So let's go down to 1. So you can see how it just looks like some lines, so not very impressive. 10. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. 20. Alright, so 20, 30, 10. None of that really is making a difference. It kind of looks all the same. I'll just go and leave mine at 20 for now. Actually, let's go and leave it at 10. Alright, let's go down to wave amplitude. That's going to be kind of like your bump depth. So if we make this 1, you can see how it's really deep. But we can get a really good sense now of what the ripples look like. Alright, so let's see this number of waves. If we increase this, you can see how it's adding a little more detail to the sand. Alright, I got mine at 30. I'm just going to go ahead and leave mine at 30. Subwave. Right now it's at 0.125. Let's knock this down to 0.1. Let's do 0.05. So you can see what it's doing. Now it's looking more and more like sand as we drop this number down. So maybe 0.03. Okay, that's getting a little too, I don't know how to explain it. Let's try 0.04. That's actually not bad. 0.05, 0.04 looks pretty good. I'm going to leave mine at 0.05. You just kind of play with the number and just kind of look at what it's doing. So that, I mean, that looks pretty good there. I like that. Alright, smoothness. Obviously, it's just the higher the number, the more smooth it's going to be. So if we did like a 10, you can see how it's a lot smoother. And if we did, say, 0.1, you can see it's just it's just not what we want. So let's put it at 1, and let's go back up to our wave amplitude. Let's knock this down. 0.5, 0.1. It's actually not bad there. Alright, I think I'm going to leave mine at 0.1 to start off with as far as the wave amplitude. That seems to look pretty good. Alright, as far as our light, when we put a light in here, it's going to probably make this stand out even more, these shadows. So we'll probably have to come back in and adjust our wave amplitude or our smoothness. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do a regular render this time so I can see what it looks like on all the sand. So just regular render. Alright, there's our sand, and actually it looks like it's a little too much. The bump's too much. So let's lock this down some more. I'm just going to knock it in half, so 0.05. Let's re-render. And that's actually pretty good there. I'm liking that a lot. Actually, that's probably better than I was expecting it to come out looking. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do a save. I'm going to do a file, save scene as, and this is going to be desert scene _2. That way, if I need to, I can go back to _1 to go back to a previous version if I didn't like some of these changes I'm making. But so far, I'm really liking the way this is turning out. Alright, so once you got some waves on there, next step is to add a light. Let's add a light. Best way to simulate the sun, if you're not using, well, I guess you could use the physical sun and sky, but then you have to do some gamma correction to get everything from looking so washed out. So to make this simpler, we're just going to use a directional light. Directional light works really good for simulating moonlight or sunlight. Alright, so I'm going to go up to create, lights, directional light. Just going to click on it. I'm going to select my move tool, and where's our light? There it is. I'm going to lift it up. Alright, now our light is facing from, like the sun's shining from behind our camera. Let me go back into our rendering angle. I want the sun to be shining kind of from up here or the left down to the right, but the way my scene's set up, I kind of want my sun to be up here in the right hand corner, shining down towards the right to left, because I want some shadows that kind of falling along this embankment right here on this hill. So we want some shadow. We're going to have a guy and a camel up here at the top of this hill, kind of like he's walking by, and we want the sun to be really bright behind him and creating kind of a silhouette, and then we want the shadow just kind of falling down this hill right here. Alright, so I'm going to press the letter T with the light selected. Press the letter T, so I'll give us two handles. Kind of get in here. Alright, this handle, of course, you can see what it's doing. It's controlling our light. This handle is controls where the light is, if I can grab it, pointing where, or determining where the light's pointing. So what I want to do is I kind of want our sun to be kind of low and kind of aiming towards that direction there. Alright, let's go back to our rendering angle and see what this kind of looks like. So actually not bad. So something kind of about like that. Let's do a render. See what we've got. Alright, so our sand is looking a little more too deep now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. And let's select our ground attributes. There's our shader node. Go back to our bump. Alright, wave amplitude. Let's lock it down some more. 0.04. Do another test render. Alright, maybe still a little too much. Let's try 0.025. Alright, not too bad. I kind of like that right there. Let's maybe bump it up to 0.03 maybe then. Alright, so 0.03. Not bad. That looks pretty good. Alright, I'm going to select my light. I'm going to press number 7 on my keyboard so I can see what the light's doing. So we can kind of see where the shadow is doing and where the ground is lit up. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and bring this intensity up a little bit. You know, I don't want it really bright like that, but maybe this is what it was at 1 right here. This is what it was, default. And I'm just going to kind of bring this up a little bit so it just brightens it up some. Alright, now we can adjust our light to change our shadows, and I'm thinking I want something kind of about like that right there. Let's do a test render. Alright, not bad. I kind of like that. Alright, next thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of color to it. So I'm going to click on the color and let's give it kind of a yellowish, maybe not too much, because that's going to affect the color of our sand. Alright, I kind of like the look of the light, but let's a little too much saturation in the ground, so I'm going to select my ground plane and let's just knock the saturation down just a little bit more. Alright, that's looking pretty good right there. And again, the sand's looking a little bit too deep, I think. So let's go back to our bump. Let's knock this down to 0.02 for our wave amplitude. Alright, that's looking good again. So it's just back and forth until it starts looking the way you want. Alright, now I like that. Let's go ahead and create our character, our dude up here on the top of the hill. And that way when we see a shadow we can start making some more adjustments however we need to. Alright, I'm going to save this again.